in terms of actually planning for the future of the club, I don't think either the Zlatan or Ronaldo moves made sense.
The Ronaldo point though is interesting because it links back to the question around Fergie. He definitely played a role in getting Cristiano Ronaldo to come back to United. And that was one example of his influence at the club post him, walking away from the managerial role. So the Athletic article on it, I think, quoted that he was on a package of just over £2 million remuneration a year. That was sort of his deal, was this sort of ambassador role for Man United. And he was very much there to be that point of, add a bit of stardust to conversations, to commercial conversations, to conversations with partners, and then conversations with potential transfers. He definitely played a role in getting Ronaldo to come back to United. I think he has played indirect and direct roles in United's recent commercial deals. And when you think of a club that turns over 650 million pounds a year, and he's on 2 million pounds a year, you really do wonder, when they think of cutting costs, how they've ended up deciding the guy that put United on the map and has put them into a position of being able to have those numbers from a revenue perspective. How they decide that he's expendable seems bonkers. The amount of value that he adds to the business for that cost, the ROI is massive. And unfortunately, they've got themselves into that hole from really poor acquisitions. And over the last couple of seasons, you do just have a horror story of a lot of money spent on talent that hasn't worked out. Casemiro, not the right signing. For me, Cristiano Ronaldo wasn't the right signing. I can understand why they did it, and he did have an impact, but it didn't speak to it. It sort of contradicted what Arteta was doing at Arsenal around building a team around a system, whereas bringing Ronaldo, everyone else was singing to his hymn sheet, and it was a very short-term move. We'll get someone in, add some value for a short period of time, then we'll have to fix it a couple of years down the line. Hasn't worked. Antony, of course, one of the worst transfers that they've made. You can even look at Maguire, poor transfer. You look more recently, bringing in De Ligt. He wasn't starting in the game against Villa. They had to bring in Johnny Evans and Maguire to play at centre-back. You just look at all of these transfers, all in the sort of £70 million as well, that sort of region of seven. And they just haven't worked. And unfortunately, they're not the ones that you can easily get off the wage bill, get off the wage bill. So they've had to look elsewhere. But for them to land on getting rid of Fergie seems really difficult to swallow. As an Arsenal fan, you look at it and you go, wow, that must be tough for some United fans like yourself, Jeremy, to understand, to surely rationalise. The guy who put United on the map, to see your club then sort of say, no, we're done with you now. Thanks very much. We're moving past you. Surely that's got to be a painful thing to see.
Well, let me ask you guys something. Real simple question. I want to hear it from the both of you. Should Arsenal be paying Arsene Wenger a salary?
It depends.
But he's not. In what sense though? Because he doesn't have a role at the club. Granted, there could be value in bringing him into the club,
but you guys have been able to get back slowly, very slowly, and I guess you guys started from a much lower position than we did. But you've gradually managed to get back to competing at the top of the league, right? And you didn't need to have your most successful manager in the background, lurking in the shadows, influencing, right?
He didn't leave as our most successful manager, though. Fergie left on a high, winning the league, going, I've done as much as I can do, and probably still have energy to be involved in the club, which he was. Wenger hits 2017, 2018, then the narrative is that he's been there for too long. We just have to finally reach a point at which we can cut ties with him. And Wenger had no interest in being around the club. So even if I think we offered him a role, I don't think he would have taken it. And that's why he was absent for so long. And I think it was a couple of seasons ago, there was a bit of a hoo-ha about Wenger being at an Arsenal game, because I think he was, similar to Klopp, run out of motivation, run out of energy, needs to get away from here. I think Arsene Wenger was probably in a similar headspace, which I don't think Ferguson was in. And United could definitely see, okay, well, let's keep this guy close to us because he has some serious commercial clout, which we can leverage. And, the Cristiano Ronaldo acquisition is just one example of that. And there'll be the intangibilities of those commercial deals. I just don't think Wenger...
Henry, mate,
yeah,
I think you said it best yourself just there. He has some commercial benefit and value to the club, and obviously he has great football knowledge. But the last thing any CEO wants to have when they join an organization is have the previous CEO being best mates with all the directors above him and having influence around. So I think from a business standpoint, yes, there is lots of value from having Alex Ferguson a part of that. But I think it actually held us back from a managerial standpoint, feeling like they were the true owners of that club from an actual on the field decision.
I think there's definitely merit in that argument. And if you're Eric Ten Hag going through a difficult spell on the touchline and you look up to the stands in Old Trafford and you see that line of directors with Fergie sitting there, you must feel like you got the weight of the world on your shoulders. That is a difficult, that's a difficult thing to manage. I definitely understand that side of it. But you also then have to think that, well, a lot of the financial freedom that Eric Ten Hag and Man United coaches have had has been a result of the financial success that the club can attribute to that.
Absolutely. Look.
So you can't.
Let's be really clear, boys. I think
you can't eat with one hand and
No.
Sure.
But I think it's completely separate. I mean, we have to say, look, you did your time. We're so thankful. And guess what? You were paid incredibly, incredibly well to do that, right? It wasn't as if Fergie worked for free at United, right? I just think that he should have, when he left, taking a nice long period of time away from the club and then come back in really special circumstances. And they didn't need to have him a fish on. They should have just given him like a brown paper bag with some cash in there every so often when we needed to roll him into some decisions. I just think saying that he created, this environment for all these other managers is unfair, because then we're going to be like 20 years down the line and saying, Ferguson gets to eat for free, or he should be able to eat for free at United.
I genuinely think he should. I genuinely think he should. I just don't think it's particularly right to look past his impact at the club. And I think there should be...
what he should get is what he should get is the treatment of free season tickets. You have your own suite at the club, right? You have all the hospitality that you like. Invite as many people as you like.
Which I think he'll still have. I think he will still have.
Of course he will. Of course he will. But I think that's what he always should have had. He shouldn't have had that major stake in the club for as long as he has.
Yes, I think something that Henry kind of mentioned is the fact that he left on a high, and I think that has to be taken into consideration. Like when he left on a high, you guys were in a good position. It was a surprise at the end of the season when he was leaving. Because he's been around for so long, he's met a lot of coaches.
Okay, so
he was needed to help take you guys into the transition of the next period. I think where you guys went wrong is that you also brought in a coach that wasn't ready.
That he suggested.
No.
Not only did he suggest, he was like, back this manager.
And he said that.
And a lot of people also say, I'm not one of them. I'm just saying an argument out here, playing devil's advocate, although the devil has enough advocates. I am just saying that some people said that Fergie actually left us in a really bad position with that team, right? Even though they just won the league, which I think is a terrible argument. But that is an argument. People say that he suggested that we have David Moyes take over, and then he also left us with like a diminished aging squad that only he could manage.
But people didn't think so at the time, as far as I remember, people didn't think Moyes was a terrible coach for you guys to have next.
No, of course, no one thought that at the time, but it proves that he wasn't.
Yeah.
It just didn't work out.
So I don't think you can put that on Fergie's shoulders.
Yeah, it just didn't work out, bro.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that he's playing this position as an influence in the club now that he's retired. His first suggestion was a flop.
I'm a different type of rock star. I got class and I got Henny overflowing up my shot glass. And yeah, I know I'm not a keeper, but can you be my mama seater by the time I'm done with